All right, I think we are live. Well, not technically not live. I think we are. I think we're good to go. I guess this would be episode one of, whatever. I don't really have a name for this. I was thinking something generic like "Let's talk about stuff."
Creative talk.
Yeah,
Like
creative talk, dance talk, maybe. But for those of you guys that are watching this for the first time, so we are a bunch of dancers. I'm Jeremiah. People call me Miah. And then we just decided that maybe it'd be a good experience to just chat, talk a little bit about what's going on inside our heads with regards to dance and the situation that we're all sort of in right now. So I have with me today the two dopest dudes that I know in terms of the dance community, just like straight killing it all the time. Yeah, maybe I know some of you guys know them by name. And some of you guys might know them as coaches. Some of you guys might know them in the community. So, but maybe just a short background. You guys give like a quick, like how you started and what you're up to now. Is that cool? So we got Jesse and James here with us. Either one of you guys want to go first? Is that
Okay?
Pointing to Jesse. James. All right, James, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, so I'm James Wong. I started dancing when I got in my college team, which I wasn't really expecting because I sucked at my auditions, but I got in. So that was the first time I really knew I was okay. I'm gonna be dancing. So yeah, before I was dancing, but for fun now. And then yeah, so college in UP Manila in Dayo for 4 years, and then after that I continued just dancing after even while working. And then after 2013, I decided to leave my teaching job and just go full on dance. Yeah, and then until now. So yeah, so I'm still dancing now. That is my career and profession, and yeah.
Yeah, nice. Go, Jess.
Hey, I'm gonna wear a hat because you guys are both wearing the same gear, so I feel left out. So I'm just wearing it like something different. Out of my back.
Yeah.
So we have everything. We have the beanie, we have the hat, and we have the cap.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, my name's Jesse Gotangco, aka Reflex. I've been dancing since I was a kid, but just like by myself. Those family gatherings where they're like, sayo, sayo. You know what I mean? But maybe formally dancing since like 2003, 2004. Started taking classes. Then got into breaking. Then got into my college group. Si James, if he's from Indayog, I was from CADS naman in Ateneo. Nice. Then I was affiliated with a couple of groups then after that. Well, I was part of Battle Crew, which is like a breaking crew. Made my own Solstice. And then after that, just a lot of stuff happened in dance because I accidentally pursued it after college.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to just give like dance a year before I would try out working, but then it kind of just like rolled over and it just kept going. So yeah, so it kind of helped. It then in college already, I guess I kind of had pretty good connections so yeah, just been dancing since then. A lot of projects in the country with different groups, different dancers outside the country as well.
Yep.
Doing different styles. Then right now I am teaching in a university and coaching CADS, and I'm with Manila Soul. I'm still with the project, but I'm not directing them no more. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got homeboy Felix and Bagos doing that.
Dope. It's interesting. It's interesting because us chatting now, right? It's like us, but like fast forward like 10 years and sort of what we're discussing, and you know what I mean? Like the experience is different. The things that we're doing are different. It's a very different perspective, I think, from somebody who's just like, starting out, or let's say you jumped into college and started dancing. Like when you guys first started, how would you describe your, were you jumped right into, were you exposed to like the dance group sort of community right away, or was it more of like an individual thing and you started figuring it out that way?
I would say ako individual, like just by myself. Before YouTube, man, it was just MTV, or eventually internet had Style to Oaf,
Yeah, yeah,
which was a
yeah.
hella old b-boy site, right?
Yeah,
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 diba?
That's
Style
all.
to Oaf, then whatever VCDs you can get off of, like
yes.
Battle of the Year,
Bboy.org.
or
Oh yeah,
bboy.org. But definitely You Got Served was like, for me, one of the catalysts na
yeah.
parang, then after that, yung classes, yung groups,
Mm,
yun. So that's,
yeah.
hey, Michael Jackson, ako since I was a
Right.
kid. Pero, yeah, pero parang ibang influence yun eh.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Ikaw, James.
Yeah. I was in it for like just myself.
Uh-huh.
Because like I was a musician. I'm a musician. Like I'm a
Yeah.
drummer. But every time I tried to dance in high school, no rhythm at all. So like, this is just for fun, you know. So I felt like when I watched Step Up, well, You Got Served first. Like we would bite that, me and JB, and then when I saw Step Up and I saw Channing Tatum, I was like, yeah, that's the goal.
But
Like
the dance or the body?
everything.
Everything.
Like the most like like I don't even want to finish the movie. Like for me, like I want to dance like that. Like to feel like you're not even part of a group or like but like anywhere you can dance. Like when you're cleaning, the body child like he's cleaning the car and then suddenly he's dancing. So parang for me, it was like that. That's why I wasn't really going into the dance team to college. But when I got in, yeah, what excited me was the use of the studio, like alone time. So after training, I can freestyle.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
was born in it. Yeah.
You know, I had a similar experience. I think just like you guys, I came at it from a more individualistic, like as an individual, just kind of exploring dance. But it wasn't so much. It was only because when I jumped here to the Philippines in 2007. Before that, I was just dancing around high school, and we didn't have, like here you got studios, you have teams. I was from Virginia, right? So I was like the one of like two Filipinos in my high school. And then like the bar was set pretty low in terms of as long as you dance, like, yo, you're a dope dancer. And I'm like one dude here. So I would literally just kind of practice and dance like in my garage, watch YouTube videos or to learn. And it wasn't until I got here that I suddenly realized that there was such a structured way of dance, and then that's when I actually encountered the phrase like, oh yeah, you're a freestyler. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, you like to freestyle? And I said, for me, because growing up, it was always like if you were trying to be a dancer, you were just gonna learn how to dance. So it was never,
Right.
you know what I mean? But that's just, it's not a bad thing. It's just like a different time because we didn't have as many outlets back then. So it was just kind of like, yo, I'm gonna learn how to dance. And then when I got here, that's when it was like, oh, okay, so you're the freestyle guy, or like, oh yeah, you can pick up like choreo. Like honestly, I thought this is a funny story. When I auditioned for UP Street Dance Club, which was the first like the college team that I joined, I remember si Kuya Von was teaching the audition choreo, and then pag tinuturo niya, like every couple eights, talagang I was doing it like full out, like every time, right? And he just kept adding. I was like, how long is this gonna go? And by the time he got to like the end of like 6/8 or 8/8, I forget how long. He goes, okay, guys, doing. And I was like, I looked at everybody and I was like, what? We weren't doing this whole time? Like, like, like I had no concept of like what parking was. Like when people would throw this up, I'd be like, what's that? Like go extreme.
Yeah.
Like that's
extreme.
Extreme, yeah. Like, exactly. So it was yeah. Like they would throw this like do that. Yeah. Like when you throw up now, you're like Mark.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know this was Mark.
You don't. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, in our, I guess, like over the past couple years, and some of the like we use this a lot. And before that, I thought it was just go all out, But it's crazy too. I mean, speaking of freestyle and I think obviously it's great because you have got like you both are really parang in that section of dance, right? Uh, when I was auditioning, I remember being in line, and we had two what's it called? We had two things that we had to get through. Either one, two things. We had to one learn the choreography, and then two just perform a freestyle. And I remember like standing next to some of the guys that were with me, and they were like, "Are you nervous for the choreography section?" I was like, "No, not really." And I was like, I said, "No, no." He said, "Are you nervous for the choreography section?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm nervous for the choreography section." He goes, I'm nervous for the freestyle," and I couldn't understand because at the time, coming from the States, I was like, one, I said, if it's a freestyle, how are they gonna, judge you if your own thing? You know what I mean? Obviously, as mature dancers, right? Once we develop a style, there's technique, then yeah, you can judge, right? But at that stage, it was kind of like just do your thing, And the I was telling him, I was like, dude, if I do choreography, like if I do freestyle, the judge isn't gonna know what I did wrong. Only I know, right? But if I do choreography, he's gonna be like, yo, that doesn't look right. You know what I mean? So what was I mean, you guys both started as individuals, but how did you guys transition from being the quote unquote freestyler and then sort of being in a team dynamic? How was that for you? Let's go with no. Who wants to go first? Maybe you're thinking about
it. See James Vice.
Yeah. I can. Yeah. I think I was forced into it. Like, I really didn't know what to expect. Like being part of a team.
Yeah.
Because varsity, what does that mean? I know like basketball varsity, but so when we would train, like I was just at the back. I just wanted to dance, like get better at it. And then so warm ups, like, oh, we warm up, okay. And then somebody teaches choreo, and and that's where I knew I sucked. Like, oh, this is ganito pala yun. Like, they're not copying from anybody, so we're just making up. This is their own. So parang that was like for me like. So being in Indaig was like, this is how a team works. Like this is how a dance team works. Like you choreo, and then people learn it, and then the best people get in something, or they use that and compete. That's where I realized, this is how we do it. It's not like in you got served pala. Like there's like, yo, let's all dance together.
They haven't been practicing, and they haven't seen the guy, and they already know the routine.
Exactly. How did? Yeah. So I thought it was just like that on the spot. Everybody's just good, and yeah. So there.
Go, man. How about you, Jess?
I think I adjusted pretty fast because I think being in a classroom setting, I was learning a piece from the teacher, and also spearheading my high school team. Like me and a high school friend of mine, we were the ones who actually wanted to compete. We saw a pen shop before Skechers. There was like pen shop, and then we were like, oh, that's like you got served, but maybe not the same. But maybe that's the one. So we joined because we asked Kuya Von. Kuya Von was like, we were actually the first team Kuya Von coached. So because I was like spearheading that, I think my adjustment period was like quite fast. But yeah, when I got into college, it was a bit different in terms of siguro organization because it's student org and iba na yung like me, like Phil and I, like we met kasi even before CADS. Well, same year, but like we met during our ORSEM idol thing, and we would just we would already just jam and do our own thing. So auditioning for CADS, I remember we were pretty confident. We were like, we freestyle, we can do choreo. So like when before mag-start yung auditions, parang freestyle na kami. Pang sindak na mga tao.
Yeah.
So nagbibiboy ako sa gitna ng studio.
Oh, wow!
Wow! Yeah, ganun. Si Phil nga actually like, during Orsem, nagpa-practice siya dun sa mismong Orsem stage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a funny story. Maybe for another time how we met, pero
That's a
yeah,
funny
we had
story. That's a
a super funny
story.
story. But we were both kind of confident na in our own way, tas nag-meet pa kami. So parang getting into
yeah.
getting getting into the org, syempre may resbakan na parang, hindi, gawin mo lang yan, gawin mo lang yan.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
So and you had because you said you actually were like in House of Dance, right? So as a kid, how early did you start? And I guess that eased your transition into like sort of the teaching and studio environment, right?
Yeah, definitely. The House of Dance is like for the viewers who don't know, that's like my tita's studio, and it started off with a lot of jazz classes, ballet classes, like a classical dance studio. But they were, since my cousin, who obviously owns the studio, tita cousin, yeah. She's also part of UP, and people from UP Street started teaching there then. So that's where I kind of adjusted. But my first classroom experience actually was not street dance; it was jazz. When I was like yeah, dude, like I was like maybe like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, or maybe 11-year-old kind of chubby kid.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I want to dance. So
Yeah.
in and also jazz class where I had to learn how to do chasses and all that.
Man.
So it was fun, but I felt kind of strange. I was like,
How old were you? How old were you when you transitioned into like street dance? High school now?
High school, yeah, definitely. I would say mga third year high school. That was about like 2003. That's when like You Got Served came out. Yeah. But before that, I had no idea what street dance was. All I knew was like, oh, there's Michael Jackson dancing, and there's like the boy bands.
Yeah.
Like that.
Man, I wish that
and eventually see the Wade Robson.
Oh
you guys
yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Wade Robson project. Yeah.
I look back now and I wish that I had that sort of a background. I have actually as a mature dancer now, it's like I even have more and more appreciation for just the different styles of dance. Ikaw, James, when you started, was it street right away? Did you have some sort of formal background, or how did you learn?
JB was the only guy who was able to dance in our school. Our school is so small. So I only got to learn by copying his choreo. So other than that, I got to dance when I was a kid. Gary V was my Michael Jackson. So honestly, didn't know Michael Jackson before, so I only got to know him around like middle school. So I really didn't know Michael Jackson. I just knew like Gary V. Gary V is a dancer game. And so I would watch his videos and Street Boys and maneuvers. But like I know I was thinking of dance like, oh, that's cheesy. Something like that, like, oh, that's cheesy. I'm not gonna do that. So when I saw JB do it, it impressed a lot of girls in school. I got into it. Anyway, but no idea at all. So watching You Got Served too, like it's all like hip hop to me. Like, oh, this is hip hop. Like they spin on their heads. They do stunts. And it's very rugged. It's not clean. It's that no knowledge about styles already.
Dope, man. This actually gives me an interesting question, and I want to pose this to Jess because you seem to have a good look in terms of coming from the street scene and then also from a formal class experience, right? So how would you say let's look back, right? When we were first started dancing, maybe in college, when we look at street, right, and how it sort of evolved, we sort of got to evolve with it. You know what I mean? Like the learnings, the learnings were a bit more informal. You could grab them from anywhere. You can grab them from your friend. You can grab them from TV. You can grab them from YouTube, tutorials, whatever. And then we just kind of grew with it. So when we look back these past 10 to 15 years, it's like, oh yeah, we picked it up from here. Now you had that experience, but at the same time, you come from the classical sort of world in terms of like, there's a syllabus, there are these moves, right? So how different is the experience, or is it?
Um, I think I think it was like it was kind of the transition throughout the years kind of just develop more bridges between the formal class setting and the actual street dance scene. Now you kind of see parang how, you know what I mean? Because like my like I did start like taking jazz classes, and it was quite formal. Of course, a class structure with like vocabulary ng jazzers and then all of that. And then when I got into street dance naman, just prior the class experience, it was honestly just biting whatever I can see online because it looks cool. So that experience for me was just like a self like a dependency, like an independent type of nature that I think a lot of dancers in our generation kind of have. You know what I mean? Like, of course, we weren't like socially aware, culturally aware yet of like the styles or whatever, right? And then I go to a formal class setting where suddenly it has that street style flavor moves put into like a formal class formula of teaching, you know. So parang there were a lot of times where I'd like try to always question certain things and be like, I wonder like this, or try to just bridge stuff. That's why like even if I was doing, let's say, classes in house of dance, street dance, breaking, I always had that itch na parang, okay, I kind of want to go out and like let me like reach out to like the b-boys here in the Philippines. Then and then that kind of linked me to like the community and so it was like it's like constant transitions to the different scenes. That was college scene, that was open group scene.
That's nice. Would you say that, I mean, judging from that, right? Would you say that obviously we can look at it, there's freedom in both disciplines. There's freedom in exploring, for example, in the street sense, even though, you know, we were kind of learning as we grew. And then there's also freedom in the classical sense, whether you've got like these styles that have been around for a while, like jazz, tap, you know, modern. So would you say that it's less scary? Would you agree that it's less scary maybe to explore and try out new stuff in the, you know, in the street sense? Because for example, when you do street, like you're not really stepping on anyone's toes until you get into like a certain discipline. And then even at that point, it's still up for debate. But like let's say you're doing jazz, it's like you do jazz, like, no, that's not jazz anymore. That's like something else, or it's not tap anymore because, you know, that's something else. So would you say that it's less scary?
That is a really good question. And I will say that that will depend on the variables around where you're setting. You know what I mean? Because like, for example, tayo, right? In our generation before, when we would just like experiment with street styles, like people would just be like, hey, okay, like, okay, yeah, let's start this. Let's try to today. You might not get that from everyone today because, you know, maybe the community is more mature, the styles are more mature. We can't avoid criticisms or judgment if you're a younger dancer trying to do something new. So I think it will always depend on the setting. Like, are you growing up in a competitive dance community setting? Are you growing up where everyone's kind of just starting? You know what I mean? So I think I think that's always going to be a part of history within different dance communities. You know what I mean? Because Kamini James, like, for sure, James can attest to this. Like, dance to the music, that type of battle was so different versus different battles today. Kahit all style pa siya. You know, the reception is different. How it's judged is different. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah. So you know what I mean? So it's different there. So you can't say na parang in class na it's stricter in classical dance. Maybe it is. Maybe it is like universally. Maybe it is more. It is stricter, but you can't say that there's no strictness. What? In street as well. Although street dance is made to be innovated, to you know, constantly change. That's the nature of it.
I like your answer when you mentioned that it's really environment that, like, where you're at, right? Like you mentioned that community like if your community is just starting, if your community is already mature. So in terms of, you know, like for example, if you're exploring and you try something, if you're in a mature community, they're like, oh yeah, been there, done that. If you're in a new community and you're just starting, they're gonna be like, oh, fresh. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. And again, I think I definitely get your point. Yeah, yeah. I've always found like in the street sense, it's for me. They both have freedoms. I just feel more comfortable. Like I'm not as scared or not as like on my toes if it's in the street sense, because you know that's continuously going this way. Whereas when you've got the stuff that's been around for a while, not saying that you can't innovate, right, in these classical styles, because you definitely can, but it's just this part here is less prone to critique than this one is because of the tradition and maybe for how long it's been around. I don't know. That's what I sort of gather. But yeah, you definitely hit the ball there on terms of the community being a big part of it. Speaking of that, so we're looking at, you know, freestyle. Now we're also talking a little bit about more structured dances. So let's talk about freestyling versus choreography. We can talk about this topic for like days, but I guess maybe from your perspective, how would you compare the different kinds of learnings that you can get from freestyle versus choreography? So James, maybe you want to hit that one first.
Yeah, freestyle, like I would say it's also dependent on the community you're in. So when I say that is like, if you go back to the roots word of all these things, it's all just dance, right? So dancing, freestyle is not like no routine, just whatever you feel or whatever you wanted to do. Choreography is like you have a routine, or like you set the moves, whatever it is. So that's how simple it is. But like the fact that there's like a versus, you know, like thing means like there are like the comfort of the dancer depends on like what his or her like preference of learning is. So for example, he wants to or she wants to be like, I want to learn through my own, you know, creative stuff. I'm gonna do freestyle. I want to learn by copying this person, or like give me a set of moves. I can do it well. Maybe I can try it out. So that's choreography. So for me, like it should be technically not really so different, because you know, like you can actually learn the same things. But like, you know, like when you copy somebody, of course you're gonna be able to learn faster. For me, that's like, I mean, because it's already there, right? I mean, it's this, the moves are set. The teacher is gonna tell you how to do it and like show you how to do it. So you have a structure. So it's a lot easier for you to actually learn how to dance or instantly dance by following something, compared to like somebody telling you just move how you feel. You know, that's kind of like, okay, how? You know, like that's a lot different. But for other people, again, for other people who naturally just dance, that's a lot easier. So I feel like, yes, they're both a bit different worlds, because like no structure, super structured. But for me, yeah, it's two different things. So I feel like there's no, I mean, technically there shouldn't be a versus thing, or like it kind of hope, like it's like it should be part of a dancer's life, like both. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like you should know how to freestyle because you're a dancer, man. But like, I mean, everybody freestyles when they just hear music, you know, like they just bop their head. That is freestyle. So you know, like just some dancers focus on that.
Yeah.
And some dancers focus on like, I need a routine. Like teach me and I can do that. So I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
I think you are. No, you're talking about the learnings, right? Let me know. Seguro, let me also clarify for the people that are watching. We're not like, again, it's not like, oh, here's the freestyle camp versus the choreography camp. It's not that. Obviously, what you mentioned is it's beneficial to being a dancer in either way, whether you focus on one or you combine both. It's just for us, I think what would be helpful for people is just kind of figuring out what kind of learnings they can sort of expect, right, from being in whichever discipline. So for example, the way I see it, and sort of like, I'm not a freestyler in the sense that, you know, I have experience battling. I just like dancing. So whether I'm at my house or in the room, like that, that's what I like to do. So, like one of the things that sticks out to me, for example, is I think that if you can freestyle, if you're comfortable, right, you with yourself as a freestyler, it's easier for you to sort of establish your presence a bit more, right? Because you're so used to being on your own. You're so used to being the spotlight. You're so used to being like there's no marking. It's like you get in that circle and just go, right? There's no, you know. And then from a choreography perspective, and if you're in that world, you have the ability to adjust perhaps your movement in terms of what's going to be best for the team. So let's say team dynamics. Maybe it also requires more. I don't want to say self-awareness because you can also use self-awareness in your freestyle zone. But I mean, it's just awareness in terms of how you compare to others. You know, so for example, like you could be the dopest dancer, right? Pero wala ka sa blocking. So parang,
Right.
you know what I mean? So those are like, so what I'm just saying is like these little things that I think add value. Now, because you can focus on one or focus on the other, but when you're able to sort of like, oh, grab from this, grab from that, grab from this, grab from that, then, you know, the growth that you can experience is well, to me, I feel like is really exponential. So maybe, Jess, maybe you can also speak in terms of the differences in comparing the learnings from freestyle and choreography.
Actually, like I think a month ago or 2 months ago, CADS, we hosted a Behind the Movement, which is a talk. And I discussed the interconnectedness on choreography and freestyle, that they're two sides of the same coin. You know, one can benefit, they're linked together, but they're also different in terms of siguro framework and where you want to focus. Because I feel like you know, when we talk about freestyle, there's, well, for me, like in the simplest way, we can get deeper, but like in the simplest way, like freestyle can be understood in like two simple contexts. Like one is to just have freedom to move in your own style, or to use a style freely, like, you know, popping, learning how to pop, and then using freestyle using popping or
that's nice.
locking.
I'm gonna quote
that. So there's really simple contexts where you can use freestyle, and of course there's improv, but we don't have to get into that. And then there's choreography, which is just basically steps put together. So sometimes I think if we break it down into those basic things, we can always develop connections as they build. Because, you know, like in freestyle, for example, like if you learn a particular style, like let's say locking, and you have your Roger Rabbit. A Roger Rabbit is composed of different micro steps within it, which is actually somewhat choreographed before when it was made, and it becomes vocabulary. So there is an interconnectedness, and when you can't necessarily sit down and be like, hey, guess what? I have choreography. I mean, like there is a creative process doing it, and it is freedom of choice. You know what I mean? So I often analogy na parang freestyle is like a conversation, and choreography is like a written speech or an essay. You know what I mean? One's about composing, the other is about reacting, and I think those two things benefit each other definitely in terms of learning, but they do have certain differences. Like, let's say, like in freestyle, freestyle really helps you develop a reaction type of framework in your head. So now when you listen to music or when you hear music, you're kind of already conversing through your moves as the music comes in, and there's a cognitive learning with that. Then it develops a certain framework, and you unconsciously have that cognitive strategy of how to react to music right away.
Yeah.
When in choreography naman, it's more about the behind the curtain, the composing, the decision making, the revising, the editing, and then that in that sense, there's a different discipline to it. You know what I mean? So, but just like what you said, both of those things actually help each other. Like I honestly feel that, although it's not always the case, you know what I mean? Like I know a lot of like super dope freestylers when you put them in a choreography setting, you're just getting like, what are these parameters of counts?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you have choreographers naman na super dope, and they're just like, I can't make up my mind because it's editing as I'm dancing.
Right.
So,
Oh,
so me, yeah, may ganun din eh. May mga ganun din. And it at the end of the day, just like what you said, it's neither picking what's better than the other. Sometimes it's really going by stimuli. Like some dancers, yung stimuli lang talaga nila is reacting. Some dancers need to sit down, compose, and write it before they act. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
That's dope, man. It's a lot of good insights. Honestly, I feel like we could talk about this subject for a long time. But I think you guys both gave some good good insights on that. I think what I wanna move towards now is obviously the normal that we're in right now, right? It's very different. Well, first and foremost, it's a very unfortunate time for a lot of people, whether it's in terms of health, whether in terms of finances, relationships. It's a difficult time, and everyone's sort of adjusting in their own ways. And now, obviously, we sort of come at this from a dance perspective, and going to see how this affects the community, how it affects our approach to dance. Let's talk about first within the freestyle sense. Both of you guys are battlers. You've had lots of battle experience. How do you think this situation that we're in affects the battle scene? How do you think the battle scene will adjust in this new normal, or can it? James, maybe you want to go.
Yeah, it actually adjusted pretty quickly. So when it started, like lockdown, people were thinking about like, oh, we set an event, like, how are we gonna continue this? And then people started doing online battles. So at first they were thinking of doing it live. I think some battles were done live, but they realized that, oh, it's a lot easier if we get video submissions. So like through Instagram or through Facebook, they just announce the judges, and then okay, here's a house or popping battle. These are your judges. Submit a 1 minute video, and then there. And then it's going to be uploaded on Instagram. And yeah, that's been happening also even here in the Philippines. So yeah, there were also battles organized here. So yeah, like they adjusted like quickly. I think because they had so much energy, and then suddenly you put them on lockdown, and then I prepared for this, so they had to make an outlet at least. Or yeah, and until now, I think there are a lot of battles happening. Like Summer Dance Forever is still happening right now, so that's like probably the biggest, most prestigious battle around. So yeah, still the same format. Audition videos. People,
Mm.
judges are gonna filter it, and then yeah.
Nice.
So I feel like it does it well.
Yeah. Let me expand on what you mentioned, right? It's funny because when you were talking about like the videos being uploaded and then people battling each other, it reminded me years ago when you go on to bboy.org and people were battling, there'd be like a thread, and so one person would send his video, then the other person would send his. Like this was already happening even before, like in the forum,
Right.
which is crazy. But I want to ask, like, sort of, obviously we're seeing, and like Jess was talking about this earlier, like in terms of reaction time, right? When you're live battling, you're flexing that reaction time. Like you're using that. When you're in this state now, I mean, let's be honest, you could take a retake, right? You can
Exactly.
you can take your best set there. So
Right.
do you think, for example, let's say you're an experienced battler and you're going through this time right now, do you think that they would still be at the top of their game by the time we get back to live experiences, or do you think there's still going to be some sort of a like, I don't want to say diminished, but like they're not going to be as on top as they were before? What's your thoughts on that?
I think if you're like a top battler and your motivation to dance is not just rooted in battling, or even if it is, I think the competition sentiment you'll never lose it. You'll always be on your feet, keep training every day, challenging yourself. It's just that, right now, just like what James said, the battle scene actually adjusted really fast. And it's siguro to compensate muna for these temporary times, because we do pray that it's temporary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for a lot of freestylers, I could speak for myself also, even for James, for sure. This lockdown, of course, like there's so many things happening in the world, and we pray that things get better. But on the flip side, this lockdown kind of gave a lot of people parang like a sense of hyperbolic chamber training.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Everyone's like, I'm gonna train, and then when this lockdown is over, I'm gonna be so dope like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But and yeah, I think the adjustments, like what James mentioned, yung submit ng videos. Well, we really can't do anything in a sense to make things fair, because if it's live and naghang yung music, pwede mo sabihin, no, I hit that beat, naghang lang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't really, it's harder for other styles. For breaking, it actually can be done live, because breaking, even without music, you can judge. You know what I mean? Mas sagutan eh. So it happened for Break Free Worldwide. They had a live session. It actually went well. But of course, the essence of the battle, the response, yung dun talaga for any style, it diminished, obviously. But right now, I mean, it's better than nothing.
Nothing.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If anything, it'll get, like, siguro the silver lining, it'll get battlers a little more OC or critical with their rounds. Because if they record a round, they watch it, they're like, this is crap, I'm gonna train hard, I'm gonna do another round. You know what I mean? If ever that could be like the silver lining, that they
keep improving,
perfection. Then
Now I like what you said. I like what you said when because I was like so do you think somebody who's been battling, will they be affected? Will they be as good or be not as good? And you were like, I just think basically, if you're good enough, it's not going to affect you.
Right?
You don't
you just train and you just lab every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not uncommon, because some battlers, like they purposely take a year off, kunwari, to do some underground training. And then when they come out, biglang, ang galing niya, sumabog, you know what I mean? So I don't, unless there are some dancers, and this is also a fact, there are some dancers who really latch onto the social aspect of dance. And for some people who find it hard to dance or lab alone, it might affect them. So that's also not their fault, what I mean? But it's a reality.
I think what seems to be what you're getting at as well. Like, would you agree now? It's not necessarily, because I was thinking when I asked the question, like, oh man, there's not as many live battles, right? But is it right to say now maybe it's not about the number of battles that you're doing, but just the quality of your training or your lab?
Yeah, and it's the motivation, I think, at the end of the day. Like, you get motivated labbing by yourself on the regular, even without battles. You know what I mean? James and I, we always have this conversation, and see, if you look at James's Facebook, like, you're always gonna see a post on him doing something or expressing something. So he's never gonna lose anything, even in this lockdown. Same with myself. But if ever there is like sure thing that could affect you, is the actualness of having people around.
Yeah.
Because I know for some people, parang you could be an experienced battler and suddenly on site, when everyone's around, suddenly you're like, oh shit, the pressure is, I'm back here, and then lose that feeling. But again, like what you said, if you're an experienced battler, I don't think that's a big of a factor.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. Well said.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a factor for the person who was just about to get into battling, and then this happened, right? Like he's been training for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh man,
he's about to join that battle. 2020 is my battle year.
Oh, no.
and then it's back to the drawing board.
Oh no.
Bukas na yung battle.
But the thing is though,
Oh.
a good adjustment though that people like are experiencing right now. So for other battlers, like they're really used to the community side of it, like
Yeah.
just being there. I know a lot of people who join battles because like we're still together, you know, like even if
Mm.
we're not, you know, in person, like when we get into this event, whether we win or not, like we're here, like yeah, I see you, we joined this battle together, so like it's like yeah, the next best thing. And then
Mm.
for other people too, like if you don't have to buy a plane ticket, you know, to
Mm.
join that prestigious battle. So like you can actually join them and actually go head on with the pros.
Mm.
So like and a lot of pros actually got like inspired to battle again because like
Mm.
you know they weren't really expecting to judge their next event. They weren't really expecting to go to this event. So like they had so much time right
Mm.
now. So like I have like my popping teacher joined this battle and for me like why would you join that?
Mm.
I mean like but he joined it and when my friends also joined and watched him, they got so inspired like oh it's my first time to see Rashad battle and because he's always a judge and that
Mm.
for me like being able to like be on the same stage with
Mm.
everybody because it's all online
Mm.
gives them like oh so this is how easy it is right now, you know, you don't have to go through am I gonna buy that plane ticket, you know,
Mm.
am I even gonna register, it's
Mm.
just like you're just
Mhm.
gonna submit your video.
Mhm.
So yeah, so there are also people who join battles right now for fun,
Yeah.
like they're not even skilled, but they just want to try it out. So for me, like that's good in a way because like battles are battles are becoming less underground. You
Mm.
know, like it's just everybody can join something like that.
No, that's dope, man. I think you really hit the nail on the head there in terms of like the biggest plus that we're seeing here is the accessibility and the opportunity, both for the new battlers and even for the old ones who are re-inspired to just, like
Right.
for example, before he was just like he was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna judge, and now
Yeah.
anybody can call him out like, bro,
Right.
you know what I mean? And you got to be on your toes a little bit. So that's cool.
Yes.
That's some really cool insight, man. So let's jump from battle scene, right? And let's go to the choreography scene. We're talking about competition choreography. Now, we in the Philippines especially, we have lots of teams, lots of dance teams, and people join into dance for different. They're inspired differently. So some people were inspired through let's say from the individual freestyle perspective. Maybe they came in as a battler. Maybe they came in through the studio. And then you have other people who came in through like a dance team, right? Like they joined their varsity team. And like, I mean, let's be honest with terms of what we're now seeing is that you're not seeing as many competitions, right? You're not seeing as many gigs.
You're not seeing competitions, period.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Not even as many. Parang wala eh.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Or like, what are you gonna do? Put like a 30, 40 person mega crew on Zoom?
That TikTok.
Right, right.
TikTok though.
Yeah. So what do you think in terms of, I know, uh, differences you guys, do you think you could see happening for the competition scene in terms of choreography? Let's go with Jess first. What are your thoughts?
Well, at the beginning of this lockdown, just anticipating that it could really take a long period of time for us to be in lockdown.
Yeah.
Already, I was anticipating this paradigm shift of dancers holding on to that group setting, going towards getting into a more individual sense of like
Mm.
growth and
Mm-hmm.
you know um, path direction in their dance. So in terms of competitions right now, since we're on lockdown, obviously we don't have group competitions where we can actually like watch an entire group on a video, or else you're gonna get arrested if you guys perform
Yeah.
together in public
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something, right? So what's happening right now, I think it's going two ways. One, the individual solo choreography competitions
Mm.
actually are still happening. Although again, even though I know their name choreography, but who's to say if that's choreographed or freestyle? No one knows. But you know what I mean? But that's still happening for sure. And we're witnessing a stage where there's a fusion between film and dance, where it's not just about, you know, the actual performance, it's also about how it's taken, how it's edited, then what narrative are you trying to say. There are different I know there's this thing called fifth wall, which is I think fifth wall is supported by nude floor, actually. I think so. I think it's like a
dance film.
I might and steps din, di ba?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a competition, choreography competition that is also linked with film, you know, it's shoot video concept video. So apparently that's the direction that choreo competitions are heading towards.
Nice.
Film and dance fused together. But in terms of like team competitions, like I don't know how that's gonna work. Because even if it's a concept video, technically it with more than one person, it's it I guess that's still a team competition.
Right.
But it's still dance and film. It's not like team, like you're not gonna get flagged for like wrong blocking, you know what I mean? Maling block, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna edit everyone like my video where the person on the right is
copies.
You're gonna clone yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far that's all the insight I have for that.
Dope, man. I wanna also attack it from because you mentioned a lot of like the avenue, basically in terms of the like the ways it can happen. So there's the studio, there's the film, right? There's compilation videos and things like that. I want to talk a little bit about like the psychology of it, right? The motivation behind it. Because for example, you know, when you are if you're in the scene in the dance competition scene, you are training for that specific event, right? And so what happens is you're like, bang, let's go hard. And then what two things happen after that? You keep going hard or you take a break, right? So start here and here. Now, your mindset, I think, in terms of psychology is you're training for something. Now that we're in this sort of zone, you're not necessarily maybe training for something, and you're kind of in this what I like to call train to train, right? It's one of my favorite things actually, because I don't need I don't have to be on the stage to know that like I can still experience growth this way. There's growth both ways, right? There is definitely from being the pressure, all of that comes with competition. But there's also growth when it's just like you maybe being more aware and giving time to yourself in terms of evaluating your movement, right? Because one of the things I like to say, especially when I would speak to my students, is like, yo, one thing we want to make sure is you guys are becoming better dancers and not better memorizers, right? Because you could go from year to year memorizing like new combination after new combination after new combination, but never like take the time to self-assess and see how you're actually executing those moves, right? And so for me personally, like I'll give you an example. Like after this lockdown sort of happened, it was like because I was going from class to class, workshop to workshop, and then after this, it was like, yo, this is the time to like just try something different, you know? I was looking at contemporary dancing, looking at jazz, looking at tap, right? Exploring where these backgrounds are sort of from, the kind of movement that's involved in it. It's a really exciting time, man. So now, like, what I want to speak to, maybe James, you can expand on this, is in terms of the psychology of what can happen now for somebody who is in a in a train for this mindset, and then now we're sort of in this, what's the word?
What am I gonna do?
yeah. What am I gonna do mindset? Yeah, maybe that. James, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's not just exclusive to people and the teams, but I have to agree, like it's more strong. Like if you're in a team and you guys are preparing for something, like so like that's like, so what are we gonna do now? Especially like if you have a prepared piece already, like you're done with it.
Yep.
So what are we gonna do with that? And especially if you love that piece. So I feel like the common thing is like, first is like a step back, like a forced step back for everybody, and like okay, that self-awareness, that moment of self-reflection actually is something rare. I think
Mm.
for for competitive dancers.
Mm.
And this is not exclusive to choreo competitions. I
Mm.
mean, even for battlers. Because I know a lot of people who like jump battle to battles, and that's what gives him, that's what gives him that motivation to keep on training.
Mm.
And I know, especially in the Philippines, same with, of course, choreo competition. So I feel like that step back gave them like that kind of hard question, like, okay, what am I gonna do now? Especially like, for example, if their coach doesn't really require them to train, like, what am I gonna do now? So like, it's all on them. Because usually, when you're in a team, like,
Mm.
you just depend on your coach, right? Like, okay, so we're still gonna keep training this and that, or like, if the coach just decides to like, okay, I'm gonna respect your space. We're not, since we're not doing competition anymore, you're on your own.
Mm.
So it feels like you have that. People have that right now. And I feel like a lot of times, people actually don't get to do that.
Mm.
I mean, I personally went through that, and I felt like there are days when I didn't want to dance. There are days when I felt like I need to dance because I'm a dancer. There are
Mm.
also days where like I have to get better because like when people say that you have to keep working out even in quarantine. So there's like all of those things that pressure you, and it's not just. I think the psychology is, it's not just like, am I gonna keep on dancing or not? It's just, how am I gonna dance right now? I think that's like more of the questions that they go to. So you see the stages, right? Like, first you go to easy, like you go to take a class, because
Mm.
that's the easiest way you can probably. It's online, and like your favorite choreographers are there. So you go to Steezy. After Steezy, okay, what's next? Probably message the choreographer himself,
Mm.
or yeah. So even the stages, like, you can see it, even the choreographers themselves, from not offering something, suddenly they're offering mentorships. Suddenly they're offering like group classes, and so you see that people are adjusting with like with the availability and with the things that they actually consume, because it's not anymore about. Parang it's less of a competition now, especially for groups. Like, you have no choice. If you're very dependent on your group, you have to self-reflect it. So yeah, some people go to the individual choreo competitions, but like, if you're really part of a group, I think some of them just really depend on their coach. So like, coach, what are we gonna do now? So their coach gives them a certain program. Like, I know we like do this with cats. So the training continues. So
Mm.
there's that too. But in terms of like, if you're just talking about purely competing, I feel like everybody had to kind of let that go.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
slowly, like, okay, we're not gonna go for HHI this year, maybe even next year. And I feel like that, honestly, that took a toll on everybody. Like,
Mhm.
especially, yeah, the people who really wanted to join, and the organizers too. So, but yeah, I just feel like the competition scene, in terms of the group competition, really took it
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm.
But in a certain way, it's like everybody's like left now with their self reflection time, and then how they're gonna continue it. Yeah, so I'm actually really happy to see them, actually, like, a lot of people teaching, like a lot
Yeah.
of people getting classes from the people who they really want to learn from. So it's becoming like more individual, like, okay, this is my decision, blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Yeah.
Nice, man. Yeah, I think just pulling from what you said, it like I think you also what I seem to draw from that as well is like the accountability is higher, now that we're in this time, in the sense that obviously that may not change for somebody who's always been accountable to themselves. But what I'm saying is, in the context of someone who's been part of a team, your accountability has usually just been, you show up to training, they'll take care of the rest, right? Like, you just need to make practice, and then that's what forces you to get better, get stronger, because you've got so many people around you motivating you. And then now the accountability is yourself, because you don't know what that guy's doing. He could be watching Netflix or like, but you have no idea. And so now the accountability is on you. It's like, all right, how am I going to spend this year or months, just practicing and everything like that. I think that's really parang what we're starting to sort of see. And I think you really hit the nail there too, in terms of seeing that the trend. So we're on the subject of, obviously the new normal. We talked about the battle scene. We talk about, choreography adjusting. Now, let's just talk about it from the perspective of a dancer, whether they're a battler, freestyler, or on choreography. Can a dancer who has learned through live experience and a dancer who has learned through this virtual experience reach the same level of expertise? If ever, what are the differences, similarities, or advantages, disadvantages, things like that? But can they get there? And I'm not talking like, let's assume they start at the same level. Okay, so I'm not saying you had somebody who was all live experience, right? And then he got into virtual. I'm talking like what do you call it, like the control or constant or something like that, in terms of starting from zero. Yeah, person was in like live experiences, person was in virtual experiences. Can they reach the same level?
Can they reach the same level? That's the
of expertise.
Expertise.
Yeah. Anybody want to go first?
Well,
good.
I can like dissect this in so many ways now. Well, one thing is we have to, if we want to talk about this comparison, we have to kind of set parameters on like, apart from them starting the same time, what type of environment is the guy learning live learning in, and what type of environment is the guy learning, the guy learning virtually, what is he capable of accessing online?
All right, let's say they're the same. Good question. Let's say they're the same teachers. No. Let's say they're the same teachers, right? So he goes to the live trainings. It's his same mentors who have the same amount of experience. And then this guy is accessing the same mentors with the same amount of experience.
Same. Okay.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I'm not, the question isn't which is better, right? The question is, can they reach the same level of expertise, or will there, eventually be some sort of like somebody's higher and somebody's not?
There's going to be discrepancies somewhere. I mean, like, at the end of the day also, it's going to be dependent on your test subject. Because, like, for example, the person learning live can attain, the person learning live, right, can attain better quality of skill, technique, conditioning, whatever, anything physical, because at the end of the day, the teacher is right in front. So it's like first-hand learning, like no screen. You know what I mean? But the person learning virtually can attain possibly maybe more confidence, because he or she could be more comfortable in his or own studio or place, you know what I mean? So maybe may pressure dito from the teacher, pag live, the other person may pressure but not so much, so mas naka-explore siya. For example, if you're a freestyler, if you're doing choreography, for this person, maybe physically might be, mas, you know what I mean? It could be more accurate, especially like no lag, right? No low bandwidth. But this person could or also could not tap into somewhat of like, that internalization, being in his or own comfort area. You know what I mean? So if you go like, can they learn like equally? Maybe the answer is like no, but the benefits of one or the other can vary. Yeah, parang there's so many questions to ask.
Yeah, but I think I see what you're meaning. Parang they will learn equally in a sense of the opportunity that's afforded to them, but their specialties will be different.
Could be, yeah. Because, like if I teach you how to pop here, no matter how good I'm popping, this pop in the camera could look twice as whack as the pop in real life. Or also the other way around. Because, some dancers translate really well on video, but not in real life. And vice versa. Some dancers translate really well in real life, and then in video they're kind of whack. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's true. I'm not saying who, obviously, but it's true. Eh? So video, you're gonna be like, oh, this guy's so dope, and then when you watch in real life, you're like, yeah, he's okay lang pala. Parang the video is pretty just better than that. You know, so definitely they can learn on both virtual and live. Live, obviously, that's the normal setting.
Yeah.
But there are discrepancies
Yeah.
with certain things depending on certain variables. Also.
Yeah. Nice. James, do you agree, or do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think because of the context of street dance being, you know, street, and it's not really. I mean, the essence is not just like learn it and do it by yourself. So like a big part of it is the social thing. So like definitely that's a big part, because like you can get really good in, you know, like when we started out like learning how to wave and glide in YouTube. Like, you know, you can do it really well, but you're still, you know, like when it comes to a point that you have to show it off, like, no, I'll just do it at home, because I don't know, like that's the comfort of it. So I think, of course, you're gonna get that benefit that you're actually doing it outside. You're actually doing it like with real people, and you kind of skip the steps of, you know, like, you know, that decision making of, am I gonna do this with other people or not? So because you have, I mean, you're there already. But here in virtual, yeah, you have all the, you know, that comfort, and that's also, yeah, that benefit of being able to decide for yourself. But after that, kasi, like what I noticed is when after you learn virtually, you still think it, like you're still thinking like, okay, when is this gonna be used? Or you're probably gonna show it virtually too. You know, like the things that you're learning now is all just for virtual purposes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think, you know, like, okay, like you can get at the same level. I agree, but could be the time, you know, or the process to get there is very different. But I have a student now, for example. I've been teaching her popping for a long time, live. But we only got to get like to the proper form finally on virtual.
Wow.
So I feel like, cause, you know, like parang mas naging comfortable siya. Parang ganun. So may ganun din. And there are people who like, yeah, who are actually not getting, parang they get better easily talaga. Like when you just talk to them in person, or just try to do this, ganyan, ganyan. So yun, the student is the biggest factor for me. Yun.
That is some good insight, man. Yeah. So I didn't even think about that. You're right. It's gonna also come down to the person's learning ability, right? Like, let's say even even if you're just like learning, let's say knowledge, right? There are some people who learn better through reading. Some people learn better through listening, right? So I guess we're sort of seeing that in the dance sense. You mentioned obviously you had a student. I know both of you guys are teachers. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about teaching in this new virtual world. How are teachers, do you think, going to need to adjust in this new normal? So maybe James, you could speak on this first.
I feel like the first thing is like you actually deciding to teach, because like there's this decision made, like, am I still gonna teach, you know, or am I gonna go into another career, because that's an option, you know, like suddenly you're not able to go to a studio if you're used to teaching in a studio. So there actually is a point. There actually, am I still gonna teach? Because I know a lot of people who really wanted to stop teaching because they're not used to teaching through a screen, and you have to respect that, because like that's part of them, of how they teach. I never really taught a live class while in quarantine. I only taught one class. So for me, I still don't want to teach a live class. I'm not comfortable with that. So first you have to decide. Next is, I feel like if you want to keep teaching, you have to find the market, because right now the market is like, I mean, the supply is coming from around the world. You know, if you want to learn popping, you can learn from the best. You know, like they're just online, so you don't actually have to, you know, go to your local best.
Yeah.
So it's like, are you deciding to offer that popping even if there are people better than you? So that's like the decision making thing. But you know, if you have a market who actually wants to learn from you, then that you have an opportunity there. So it's like, do you want to offer or not? So I feel like that's the first question. And then if you're going to offer, how different are you going to be from this person, from this popping teacher, from this popping teacher? Even if the popping teacher there is like, you know, the best or an OG, you know? So like in a way, it makes people and teachers extra creative now. They're not like just limited to like, hey, learn popping from me. Like it has to be like because when I teach you popping, it's like this. You know, like it has to come out like that. It's not like because you have to learn popping. No. so right now it's like teachers are an extra hunt mode. You know, like I feel like that's a smart thing to do. They hunt for the people who are looking for them.
Okay.
And then they're packaging it differently. So it pushes the teachers to become better too.
Better teachers, yeah.
In terms of the,
Yeah, I like what you said too. Like you again, you mentioned something of you know you being a teacher here and now somebody accessing somebody else elsewhere. So what we're really saying as well is as a teacher, you know, the competition or the bar is higher, right? Because like for the person that's in live training, you're like what, one of 3 or 4 people in the Quezon City area. So parang, you know, he's just gonna choose between the 3 of you. But now that everyone's virtual, he's gonna be like, well, I could learn from the guy who won that worldwide competition like 3 times in a row, as long as I'm willing to pay or whatever the the requirements are, right? So yeah, the bar, the competition, the amount of detail you have to sort of reflect in terms of how you teach is now for assessment, right? So maybe Jess, you could also speak on this a little bit, the teaching and how it's sort of changing within this environment.
Right. Well, for one thing, definitely the mode of teaching is highly adjusting. Like a lot of teachers are really adjusting. But right now, just like what James said, this is actually where more people, even though there are a lot of more choices right now, you're going to get evaluated based on how well you really teach and how well your students actually grow. Because I mean, let's be honest, like I know a lot of teachers who teach for the sake of the teaching environment and not for the sake of the lesson or the actual.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? I mean like there's nothing.
What does that mean?
Like that was like,
what does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean, bro? What does that mean?
That's okay. I'm not saying one is guys are suddenly triggered and like, oh wait a minute.
No. I was like, yo, that's a good and that's a good insight, because like honestly, like let's be honest, like you go into when you're teaching one by one, you are really focused on the little
student
things that make them better, right? And when you're teaching in front of people, like I've been to a couple classes where, you know, you ask a question, the dude's like, no, that's just how I do it, you know, and we're like, so what do I get out of it, right? And it's more hidden because there's that amount of people, you know, there's so many people there, so they're just watching you do your thing. But once you're talking about feedback, you're talking about discussion, you're talking about points of improvement, like it's less about like what you can do and more about what, you know. So that's why I was like, ooh, because like you really hit it there. So yeah, keep going, expand. we're not like whoa, who's that? Like we're just saying like that's real insight.
Yeah,
it is. It's like I know a lot of teachers who like the teaching setting, the environment, right? That again, this isn't bad, but whatever they teach, put them in the environment of teaching, and they like that activity, the activity to teach, just to share choreography or what they know, without any focus of, let's say, assessment or growth from students. It's actually just the environment. I mean, whether we like it or not, those are the realities right now in the dance community around the world. And that's also where you can like assess the teachers on what their teaching objectives are. You know, some of them, again, it's not a bad thing, but some of them like that sharing setting, regardless if their students learn, regardless if, you know, they become better dancers after. It's something they enjoy doing, you know, and we can't really blame them. And there are some teachers who are student-centered, who really like, I don't care what I'm teaching today. I just, even if I'm teaching you just one thing, I don't care if you guys video that or whatever. I'm making sure you get that thing properly. You know, there's teachers who are like that. And there's some teachers who like both, who like the teaching setting, and the vibe, the environment, the social setting, but also kind of want their students to, you know, take certain things away after the class. You know what I mean? So I think because everything is now shifted online, it's getting tested, because let's say, even though there are a lot of classes are pre-recorded and technically you can do whatever you want and teach whatever you want and sell it as a pre-recorded class, obviously in a social setting you're not getting the same gratification or fulfillment teaching in that social setting. So for some teachers, diba, it could be taxing na parang, yeah, I gotta make like a long tutorial video. So you know what I mean? And then there are people who like, okay, so I'm just gonna be honest, this is not like to promote or whatever, but like James and I, we're doing mentorship programs specifically because we like seeing growth from our students. You know what I mean? We I don't actually, I for example, I know James does this and he's able to do this. Props for you to doing it. I don't like doing it. Like, I don't like getting small group mentorships because like, I don't want to like look at 3. I want to look at 1. You know what I mean? So like, that's my learning, my teaching objective. So shifting online will always affect that from teachers, their objectives as a teacher. What are you teaching? How are your students actually being assessed? And how are they growing? So that's like as a teacher, right? Now the teaching methods right now, like I mentioned kanina, I already mentioned one, are also adjusting. You have pre-recorded classes where that's about content. It's not necessarily about teaching students or looking at the growth. It's creating content as from publications, you know what I mean? Like books. I'm going to create a book. I don't care if you learn from this book or if it makes sense. I mean, obviously it has to make sense. I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a book. The information is here. You do self-study. So there's that. There's that medium of teaching. There's also live classes, like what James and I do. We meet our students and teach them like this. And there's also a mix of both, which is like tutorials, sending videos back and forth to para walang lag. You know what I mean? So I think right now it's in conjunction to what James said, na teachers have to be creative. It's also selling that unique teaching style that you have and selling its effectiveness. So even though you have like this really famous guy here offering classes, if he doesn't teach that well, even if you're not as good as him, but you get to teach your student and your student becomes pretty dope compared to his students, you can start a market. Also, since the market right now, I mean, if the teachers right now are all over the world, that means you can also create your own market in another place in the world that might actually get your classes, because let's just face it, the conversion ng money conversion, you know, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? A master class for you could be like $50, and for you that's already good.
Yeah,
living. And then for some people, they're like, $50. I'm gonna charge $150.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
So it honestly, the market just opens up, and then now there's like, you know, it balances out some way. So if you're smart enough to know, just like what James said, to be creative as a teacher, to sell yourself as a teacher with teaching objectives and clear learning objectives that your students will always get. You have a chance. Teachers have a chance to shine. You know what I mean? The teachers.
Yeah.
Not the. I'm not okay, but na lang. Whatever.
The dancer. You're not the dancer.
Not the demonstrators.
Yes.
Who go to class and just want to show off. Like, if you're a real teacher, you focus on the teaching. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
you said it.
People want to see demonstrators demonstrate something dope. They don't have to sign up for your class. They just have to watch a YouTube video. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's a demonstration. That actually, that's how I try to teach choreography in a live class. I don't demonstrate here sa camera kasi may lag. So I'm gonna tell them, after this sequence, I want you guys to watch this video that I sent you, so you can study the timing. So that's the demonstration, right? So kung yun lang, o di, rin na lang YouTube video mo.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So teachers are, as in the teaching, that's the one that's of value right now. The teaching, the style of teaching.
I have something though. I have something on the other end, like, I feel like though, like, because it's easy, you know, like it's easy to package yourself to as a good teacher. I feel like for me, one very important thing, especially if you're teaching technique, okay? I mean, or if you're teaching your own choreography, I mean, you should be able to dance it well. Sorry, but this is really big for me. I mean, if you can talk a lot and really and you're a good teacher, you should be able to be a good dancer too. I mean, this is dance we're talking about. So just for me, you should be able to back it up. Like for me, like if you really want to be, your integrity holds that you're a good teacher, then if you're teaching a certain style or a certain technique, you should be able to demonstrate. I mean, just because you should be the product of your, of the thing that you're doing. I mean, because I guess I've seen some people, not saying it in the Philippines, but like around, and this is even before lockdown, that they get, that they actually can get away with just talking, in class. And because they're smart, and they know a lot of stuff, but when they dance, like, so, so, like for me, and this is my personal preference. This is just me. I mean, anybody can like contest this, but for me, that's why I always show, I mean, how I dance, because I want people to see that, like, I can show it to you, and I can teach how to do it too. But because I feel like being a responsible teacher is being able to demonstrate what you're teaching. Sorry.
No. That's. I mean, hey, that's an awesome insight.
I agree as well.
I mean, basically, you're really saying, right? Like, be a practitioner. You walk the talk in terms of that. I love that. Just to kind of make my own analogy, it's kind of like when I go into the gym, and let's say you see somebody like training with a personal trainer, and that person's like, all right, do like 10 push-ups or like 50 crunches and things like that. But then you look at the trainer, and he's like, looks like he hasn't done like a push-up in his life, right? And you're just kind of like, if that were like, I'll be honest, if that were me, I'd be like, why will I'm gonna learn from the rip guy, like, now here's the thing. If perhaps you had experience before, right? You're like, I'm this dude now because of age, but like, here's what I did. Then, okay, sure, I'll explore. Of course, if we get into that mode, I would also have to consider how updated are you with the current things that are like you might have been great here, but we also have to consider like the times now. So but ideally, I mean, with all those other things aside, like you want to be a practitioner. I'm going to learn from the guy who's actually doing it, and that's what I'm going to reach out to. So I think you touched on the practitioner stuff really well. So I guess we're really looking at perspectives here. Now let's talk about it this way then. If you're the student, okay, and I think this is a really interesting question, is if you're the student, how do you differentiate? Okay, or I'm going to talk about expertise, okay, expertise, not methodology, because methodology, everyone has their own sort of way. But let's talk about expertise. As a student, how do you differentiate between dance teachers who have depth of experience versus dance teachers who have depth of time? Okay, or do you differentiate them? So here's an example. I mean, just to kind of put it like in layman's terms, it's like you've got the dude who's maybe only been training or dancing and doing all this for like 2 to 3 years, but that's like a compressed amount of years, right? Then you've got the person who's been in it for 6, 10 years, but the amount of progress that they've made has really just been 1 year, amounted up to 6 or 10, right? So how do you differentiate between that, or do you? Are there advantages or disadvantages to either one of those?
Well, I honestly would always prioritize on experience, but that will always also depend on yung synthesis ng person, ng experiences niya. Because if the person has so much experience, even whether it's packed into 2 years or 4 years, but you can't break down the value of learning muscle control for popping, then I, as a teacher, parang, so ano nangyari dun sa experience, you know what I mean? Or at least break down, you know, maybe or show wisdom with understanding culture or history. You know what I mean? So that's, I think, at the end of the day, synthesis of what you've gone through, what you've been through, putting it into lessons that will actually help dancers grow is what's important. Now, for the other option, the dude who has been dancing for 10 years, pero same thing lang for the past 10 years, I think, honestly, like, I the only thing I would probably get from that dude or want to learn is like the good habits that actually work in time. Oh yeah, so how long did it take you to learn a windmill? Oh, okay, that's nice. Like, oh, it took this. What were your habits that are like training regimen? All right, and then I look at the experience, dude. All right, so based on your experience, is this like an effective?
Yeah.
Kasi may ganun din, di ba? Parang, oh, he got air flares in 10 years. Awesome.
Yeah.
But this guy got it in 3. Why was that? You know, there are those facts. I know that's like a superficial comparison, right? But there are those factors there. But so for me, like, experience is always something I always look at more than time.
Yeah.
If we're just talking about time,
yes.
If we're just talking about time.
Yeah, because like sometimes you can look at somebody who's like technically, like, for example, has like, oh, they've been in the scene or they've been dancing for a really long time. But then you look back and you're like, because eventually some people will, I mean, like, you will reach a point if you stop trying to keep learning that you'll plateau, you know, if you're not trying to keep doing that. So I mean, obviously the best place to be is both of these, right? Depth of experience plus depth of time. But we're just saying for the sake of the question, right? Na parang there's 2 of these things, and you know, how do you look out for which one? And I think you answered it really well. I didn't even think about, like, to be honest, when I asked the question myself, my immediate answer was like, dude, depth of experience all day, every day. But the way that you answered it, which was depth of time in terms of like the habits, that's a really good answer in terms of like the things that work for this length of time to get you to, if you're doing like a planche push-up, you're gonna talk to the guy that's been doing that for a longer time than the guy who's done a bunch of other calisthenic stuff, but he never did that one sequence for that long. So maybe that's, I don't know if that's the right analogy, but something that came up to mind when you were talking.
It's there. But I mean, there, I think what you said, the harmony between the two matters a lot, because, for example, like, you know how like young kids these days are hella crazy dancers, super crazy 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Like, they could have experience in 2 years from age 9 to 10. A lot of experience in 2 years, but maybe they're not yet in the stage where they can synthesize those experiences into certain teachings and lessons that convert knowledge into wisdom. You know what I mean? So, and that takes time.
Yeah.
At the same time, even if you have so much time in your belt, wala ka namang experience, that doesn't make you an OG just because you're really old. Because what are you OGing about?
What are you OGing about?
Every day.
What are you OGing about? What are you OGing about?
I like that.
I got.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like. Well, first I took to one new vocab from you that I really like: synthesize. I'm gonna use that and apply it in my everyday language. And then I like the phrase. I'm gonna quote you on that. Could be a good T-shirt. What are you OGing about?
OGing about,
dude.
Yo, I'm an OG. I've been in this like barangay for like 20 years, doing the same thing, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay,
right.
Maybe you're an OG in that barangay, but I mean, even look, even the OGs today, like the OG talaga who are OGs, they're still active. They're still in events. They're judging. They're staying up to date. They're, you know what I mean? I mean, Don Campbell, rest in peace, was still traveling, man, meeting dancers, even though he couldn't lock, right? James has firsthand experience with Don, and I'm sure, his stories just attest depth of time and depth of experience. Plus the fact that he's a founder, so maybe unfair yung example niyan. So,
no, but
unfair ata yun,
Well, you're right. When you look at these experts in the fields, you can. I mean, sometimes you can just tell just watching them. You're like, yeah, that he's got. I mean, sometimes it's just a natural visual thing. You look at it, you're like,
yeah,
of course. It's like,
Right.
of course.
Yeah.
You're not. There's no sense of like, wait, bakit?
Right.
Why? You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
even if you're not in their prime, you're
Yes.
gonna be like, this guy has
Yeah.
damn.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Because
Nope.
you could see some dancers in their prime, and you're like, what?
That's good. Good insight. James, maybe you can know.
5 million followers.
James, maybe you can expand on this too. Go ahead.
Yeah, but this is like, honestly, this is a very new perspective for me, because for me it was automatic, like time. Maybe because of my experience with the teachers I got. So so I think probably a good term for it is not just time, but you said it a while ago, depth of time. So it's not just like I spent so much time here, but I just slept on it, like so you lalim no time with it. So for example, like so many great poppers right now, so many great poppers, and these poppers are very well known because of battles and stuff. And but I mean, like I got my teacher, my popper teacher Rashad. I only saw him once in a battle, and when I saw him, that's what happened to me. Like, oh my gosh, like what? This is different. So it wasn't like the usual, but like I felt like, oh, this is different. This is parang malalim, something like this. And so, yeah, I feel like when I got, because of because of the time he spent learning also from the people who were like in the the popping in Oakland and San Francisco, who were actually still teaching or still popping. I feel like that like transformed my popping. So I feel like you could actually win so many battles in a year. You could be super popular, but that doesn't mean you're a. But that doesn't mean you're a great teacher. You just have so much experience, but in one aspect, in that way. But people can see like that as a whole thing. Like, oh, he's a great popper. He can do different styles. He can do this, and he's probably a great teacher. But then you attend his class, and then, oh, okay, all right. And then you see these people who are actually good, and then they're actually good teachers too. So I feel like time was a very big part, especially in street dance, because like, it's not really like centuries ago. Like the people who created the street dances are still alive. I mean, most of them, right? Some of them, right? So I feel like if you have time on your hands and you actually practice it, that's a big thing as a teacher. So like I feel like I had the best experience with my teachers with that. But again, there are also other people who experience that, who live through that, but they're not good teachers at all. Like they can just talk to you and they can just keep saying, you know what I mean, and you don't know what they mean. So I experienced that so much too. So I feel like because of that, I became like, as a student, I felt like I need to research on this teacher first. And like I feel like it's easy to like get a teacher because he won this battle or he's super famous, or to get this teacher because like like he's popular for something. But you want to actually research to a point that you actually look at, like, who has he taught, how has he taught, was it enough for just that, for example, and that gives me a good amount of research results that, okay, I'm not going to take this class anymore because I probably won't learn anything new. But so here I go here, and then like, oh, you see the way he dances, and like, who does he teach? Oh wow, like his student is crazy. So you go there. So yeah, and I learned that also with a very constant and a recent style, which is light beat. I got to learn from different teachers, and I realized that too, that like even if you're an OG or like you're a part of the first beat generation, that doesn't mean that you're that you can really translate that well into teaching. So for me, that's what time is a big part of it, because you notice a lot. Like you notice the timeline, and you can instantly say like, "Oh, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
This is what it is before. This is what it's called. This is the essence of it, and this is how you should do it." Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So compared to like a very concentrated, experienced dancer in a day or in a year, and then like, "Can you teach me this step?" "Oh, I just do it like this. Just do it the way I do it."
Right. Right.
You're probably gonna get better at it, but the depth of it, Anyway, sorry.
No, but that I mean, like, I like what you when you focus on the time part. It also got me thinking a little bit about like how we define that terminology in terms of time, right? Like how dense it actually is. For example, let's say you're doing light feet and you literally trained your heart out for 1 whole month every single day, right? So that's 1 month. Then 11 months later, you just chilled, right? So is that 1 month experience or 1 year? Whereas let's say, right? Or like, let's say maybe you've got the dude who's also doing light feet, and he did 1 year, but that's like the number of sessions you did spread out over the year. So is that 1 month or 1 year? So I think a big part of what we, because I think a lot of times when we think of somebody's experience, we think of their expertise, we just automatically relate time to how well they are, how good they are as a dancer, a teacher. And you really, really have to look at how well you define that, the density, the depth of how rich that experience is. Because you could look at somebody all day who's like, if he just did like 1 month and he went from here to here, like just imagine if he did that every year. And who's to say that value isn't any more 1 year? Maybe it's a value of 2 or 3 because he went hard, right? And did nothing else. Jess.
To add lang to what James said, actually, even though a dancer can have depth of time and depth of experience, at the end of the day, he or she could also not be a good teacher because teaching is a different skill.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's in like teaching can be it's a different thing talaga. It's your accountability with your students, knowing if they're stimulated visually, audio, verbal, instruction, learning particular pedagogies of teaching movement, especially if it's online. It's a different skill all in all. And some great dancers can be great teachers through experience and time. And some just aren't. Some can just perform.
Yeah.
Dun sila.
I think you also hit it right there, man. In terms of defining, and I realized how much better this question could have been phrased, because what I asked was, how do you differentiate a dance teacher who has depth of experience versus depth of time? And what we're realizing now is that's actually 2 separate questions. How do you differentiate a dancer with depth of experience versus depth of time? How do you differentiate a teacher with depth of experience versus depth of time, right? So parang those are things we have, like, because sometimes we discuss and we're like, oh, dance teacher, yeah, put it together. But we realize 2 different disciplines.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it, man.
Great dance, not a good teacher. So it's just a reality.
Just a reality. Dope. Cool, man. Well, in terms of time, I mean, we've really covered a lot. So I like where this conversation is headed. Again, we could be discussing this like forever. But I guess just to kind of wrap it up, I do want to end with a closing question, which is sort of tied to where we're at now. What advantages or positives, for example, can you see are in store for dancers in this new normal that we're in? We might have touched a little bit on this earlier, like we might have hit a bit, but maybe to just kind of put it together in a more concise manner I mean, obviously we see the disadvantages because we're so used to things happening a certain way. What advantages can we see that can happen for us as a dancer?
I'll answer with one first.
Okay.
How we can like exchange.
All right.
One, definitely self-assessment and evaluation on your motivation and root of why you dance, because we can all have different motivations. Like see James, he got motivated because he saw JB getting attention sa girls, so na-motivate siya dun. I mean, there's nothing wrong with whatever motivates you to dance, but your motivation and the reason why you dance will always affect your longevity. And if you know what I mean, if you'll be dancing for a long time regardless of your setting, or if it's dependent on your variables. Is it, do you have to be surrounded by people? Are you attached to the social aspect? Is it a self-fulfillment thing where every time you learn a skill, it gives you parang XP points,
Yeah.
or is it just because it's a great release so you can just keep doing it regardless if you're growing? So that self-assessment and evaluation is definitely, I think, for me, it's a benefit that we have now, in terms of self-actualization as a dancer. Na parang, okay, ano ba talaga yung dance sa buhay ko? You know,
Right.
and yeah, and for some people who, let's say, stop dancing during this new normal because they're attached to the social aspect, like I'm gonna say this to camera, like that's totally fine. No one's gonna judge you guys for that. Like if that's where you guys find pleasure in the dance, the social aspect, because it's very social, especially street dance, that's okay. Then let's pray na bumalik sa normal para makasayaw din kayo, you know. Not everyone's the same, but the benefit is you get to ask yourself that hard question, and it is a hard question. So maybe it's a double-edged sword. Maybe it's not a benefit. Maybe it's a double-edged sword. So, but it's a reality, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well said, man.
That's one.
James.
Yeah, I think with that too, like as a dancer, since you have taken that term with you, you can also even like give yourself a break. You know, like it's like right now you have a choice. You know, like you actually can stop, and nobody's gonna blame you. So like it's like it's kind of like a good way to actually like reflect. So you can actually just stop, but also like for me personally, what benefited me, because I always love to share. I just recently realized that at this moment you can actually be selfish with your dance. I mean, you can actually, if you're used to sharing, like maybe this time you can actually do it for yourself, and like it's a totally different experience for me. So I love it. I mean, I love that feeling that okay, no expectations from me right now. So maybe I'm gonna learn light feet for myself, something like that. Maybe I'm gonna learn capoeira for myself, something like that. So, and I know Maya, you've been doing this, so I feel like a lot of times we get paralyzed because like, okay, it stopped. You know, my life stopped, my dance life stopped, but right now you can actually, okay, wait. So now I'm starting a new game. So where do I want to go? It's an open world game. So nobody's coaching you, nobody's telling you where to go. You have all these options. So okay, this is interesting. This is actually exciting. So because of that self-reflection, you're going to see all the possibilities where you can go, where your dance can go. And I guess a part of that possibility is also actually stopping. You know, if you actually want to stop dancing. That doesn't make you a not non-dancer anymore. You're still a dancer. Of course.
Yeah.
You stop, but it's okay. So yeah, I think that's another one.
Nice, man. Yeah, I like that. Just I'd super identify with that. You know, again, before all this, it was like work to work, class to class, and then parang the whole world stopped, and you're like, okay, I got time for myself, and I can just, be a hermit for a little bit and just study. I was telling Jess this before. Like, it felt like I got to start it like. But it's like I started the way I did before, back in the States when I would just kind of go to the garage and just kind of dance there. It wasn't because there was a competition in mind or a performance or a gig. It was just kind of like, this is it, I definitely, it's always a journey in terms of, what we do. So that's some awesome, awesome insight. And also just to kind of touch on earlier, like you also mentioned, I think some advantages for people is the fact that they have more opportunities, avenues in terms of learning, right? Because like you said, like, for example, if you want to battle that person who you would never have the chance to if it was like a live battle, now you have that. You have the opportunity now because you have so many teachers to choose from, right? And grab your learnings each and every place. So that's a lot of good stuff that I think is going to happen. And I think it's a tough time for everybody right now. But like the more that we can sort of focus on that, some of that stuff, it's going to help you sort of navigate this new normal that we're in. So Cool.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. A lot of good insights. I love this talk. Again, we can keep going forever, but obviously, you know, we also need to sleep. But I guess let's just kind of summarize a little bit, or not summarize, but maybe you guys can.
Hold on.
Oh,
I want to add one last advantage that you have.
Yes, go.
So whether you're learning or not, so right now if you're a dancer, I feel like since everybody's online, so this means you can actually be seen more. So if ever you wanna, you know, like show people around the world of who you are, like it's not just the Philippines anymore. Like everybody's online, and you can use a simple hashtag, and suddenly people actually see you from different countries. So I feel like, yeah, so people are focusing on this stage, so you can actually just go there and show yourself. Like it doesn't even have to be like the best, but keep on showing up, and people are gonna notice you. You know, it's just
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy the opportunities we have now to compared to back then?
Dude, if this happened in the 90s and you were a dancer, how, right? Over the phone. All right, so right leg.
Yo, I just killed this beat. Your turn.
Yeah. You hear the music? You hear the music?
You hear that? You hear that?
Yeah. No, man. Okay, so I want to take this time to also to, obviously you guys are both teachers, so maybe you can just talk a bit of, just promote the stuff that you're working on. Maybe it's the mentorship stuff, the things that you guys are sort of doing. James, maybe you want to go ahead, start. Oh, okay. Jess. So yeah, Jess.
Yeah, I can start. Okay. What up, yo? So yeah, what to promote? I'm gonna promote some stuff from CADS. That, well, I'm actually not sure when you're releasing this, so I'm not sure what's happening at this point in time. But we're coming up with of course we have our year-end concert, or in this case we're gonna be posting something at the end of the year as our like year-end project. So check that out when it's up. We're gonna have our online wrap-up battle. Yeah, we're trying to
oh my gosh.
We're gonna try to brainstorm how to make it interesting.
Oh my god!
Try to come up with a new formula to have a battle online that is semi-live and semi, you know, you send videos for it. We don't know yet, but we'll fix that.
Yeah.
We're also doing Behind the Movement, another dance talk for the community. We're also doing fundraisers for charity work, which we're still fixing up right now. So just like double check them how you guys can help out with that. Probably from donation drives or something. And so that's for CADS since I'm coaching them. And then, oh yeah, for any Athenians like watching, sign up, why not? And then for myself, what am I doing?
Your mentorship stuff.
Yeah, so I have my mentoring programs. There's not a regular day on when it's gonna happen, but you know, PM, DM, that's the way. I usually just take a few students because I like focusing on a couple of people. So just PM, DM. I got content coming up in the future because I will also pulling out some classes that you guys can probably purchase. So check that out. It's not yet happening, but it will. So that's it. Follow me on Reflex Gotangco on IG and Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much, so or my Facebook.
I'll put the deets on here. Yeah, no problem.
Oh, you put the deets here. Okay. Or my Facebook, which is my misspelled last name, Go Space Tanko. That's not my last name. They had to misspell it for Facebook.
Dope.
Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Cool. James.
For me, yeah, I've been building this up. So I'm continuing a mentorship program. So I'll be launching soon, but it's called Unlock. So get unlocked. You can have three things. So you can unlock yourself. This is one-on-one sessions with me if you really want to customize like very personal way of mentorship with freestyle or street dance styles that I know. You have your unlock your style, which is for small group people, 3 to 5 people. If you have like friends who want to learn a certain style, those are 4 sessions. Or you're willing to join, you know, other people who want to learn it with you. There. So, and the last one is unlock your foundation. So foundation, that's for teams. If your team, if you're a coach or you have a team that wants to learn this certain style, So there, this is for you. Like if you want to learn 2 to 3 styles, like copying and locking for months or 2 months, we can go there. Or like techniques like groove, isolations, dynamics, whatever your team feels like you need there. So those are 3 things. I'm gonna be posting about that soon. But yeah, that's it for me.
Dope, man. I think I also, just for the people that are watching, I mean, you're definitely going to see a lot of value, right? Like there's one thing when you can pull up a video and then learn the moves that way, but it's another thing when you're getting the feedback from somebody who's experienced and can give you like the instruction to improve that movement, and that's just something that has to come from talking one-on-one and being visible on that. So hope you guys check their stuff out. I want to thank you guys for trying this out with me. Yeah, I think this was a great conversation. It's going to be a lot of value for everybody. I honestly don't know what to call this. I was thinking about let's talk about stuff, but maybe I'll just make it shorter, like let's talk. Initially, I was thinking like dance talk, but then I was like, maybe we don't always talk about dance, so maybe it's just called let's talk.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyway, this was episode 1. Thank you guys. Thank you, Team Rocket. We didn't get to talk about the background of Team Rocket, but you guys are Team Rocket.
It's
cool. You want to know like a quick 1-minute background?
Oh, go. Quick.
James and I were sessioning one time. We were like, yo, do you feel like crumping? Yeah, I feel like crumping. You want to make a video? Let's make a video. So we made a video, we released it, and we were thinking about like, you know what? Let's do other styles. Like Pokemon, let's catch them all. And then Team Rocket was born. That's it.
Nice.
Ayel was with us, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Dope.
And he's also Team Rocket. That's it.
Awesome.
That's how it started.
Dudes, thank you guys so much again for the time, for the opportunity. And hopefully we can do this again too. All right. So people are watching. Sure. Peace out. And yeah, I think we're good for the night, dudes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Wash your hands. Stay safe.
Good night.
Peace.